Hello and welcome back to another episode of D&D Campaign Prep with me, Nicholas Corey. Today, I wanted to talk about, wow, first of all, 2 streams 2 days in a row. Like, this is pretty exciting. But today I wanted to talk about basic encounter design, specifically pertaining to the campaigns that I have going. And when I say campaigns, I mean really just this one that you see before you, because the Rime of the Frost Maiden, that one is going to use all encounters that I don't know what they are yet, because I haven't book's not released. So that I'll have to take a look at after they come out. But I was excited after doing the stream yesterday and wanted to get right back into it. So here we are. So when it comes to encounter design, first of all, the most important thing and the first thing that I like to think about is the my players, like the classes that they're playing, the any special feats that they have or anything like that. Now the characters in this are not updated to match my player character creation guide like I shared yesterday, but one of them is, the other two are not. So we're going to just look at the one that is updated. This is Nalimar, which is a Drow Hexblade. Um, okay. So let's see what he has here. He's a Hexblade, so he's going to be melee focused, but he actually has decent AC at 17. And he has 24 hit points at third level. So that's not huge. And in fact, the only one that's going to be considerably like melee focused, as far as taking hits goes, is going to be Thaldar, the dwarf barbarian. So I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. Is that Thaldar's probably gonna be the only one with 30 or more HP at this point in the game at third level, whereas the other two are going to be looking more at this mid 20s range, most likely. What does he have? So Drow magic allows him to cast Dancing Lights and Fairy Fire. So Fairy Fire is going to be an important one because that's going to make everything that fails their dex check in the targeted area, attacks on them will have advantage. So that's something that I'm going to have to think about. Now that's a once per day, I believe. Yep, once per long rest. So that's not going to be too terrible. Keen Senses, Fey Ancestry. Advantage on saving throws against being charmed and can't be put to sleep. That's not a big deal. Hexblade's Curse. This critical hits on a roll of 19 or 20 against the cursed target for the Hexblade only. And then you gain hit points when the cursed target dies, equal to your warlock level plus charisma. So for him, that'd be a total of 6. So regain 6 hit points. But that's a once per short rest. It's once per short rest for a minute, but he can move it. No, he can't move it. It's just one. Okay, so that's not that bad. Hex Warrior. Hexblades are interesting. I really like the design of the Hexblade. It's actually it's not my favorite warlock. I'm a big fan of the Pact of the Tome warlock just because they're so versatile when it comes to their spells. They still only get the limited number of spell slots, but they get access to rituals and they get access to cantrips, extended cantrips, which I think really kind of elevate the warlock's play. Anyway, proficiency with medium armor, shields, martial weapons. Okay, this is the like weapon bonding from the Eldritch Knight, essentially. What invocations did he take? He took Agonizing Blast, so he adds his charisma modifier to Eldritch Blast damage. That makes sense. And he took Devil's Sight. He can see normally in darkness when it's magical or non-magical to a distance of 120 feet. That's important. That's one that I'm actually going to have to, because I was planning on using Magical Darkness at multiple points, but he can see through it, so that's good to know. In fact, we're going to update his token, his dynamic lighting. Night vision out to 120 feet. Save. And now we have to update that on his character sheet. So remove the old one, select the new one, use selected token, save. Okay, so he's melee focused, obviously. Oh, and he has Warcaster. That's nice. Okay. He's melee focused. He still only has like 2 spell slots as a warlock. And what spells do you take? Armor of Agathis, that's a good one. Hex, Expeditious Retreat. Darkness is a free spell. So he's probably going to be casting Armor of Agathis. And then he's probably saving his second spell slot for Hex or Expeditious Retreat, obviously. And he's going to be using Booming Blade a lot. He's going to be using Eldritch Blast a lot. So he's going to be having some decent damage output. He's just not going to be able to take a lot of hits, but he has 17 AC. So this first encounter, designed for a party of 3 level 3s, and this is probably a little on the easier side, but I'm pulling out some interesting tricks. So I wanted to go easier on this first encounter because I am being tricky, and that's kind of how I'm going for a lot of the encounters in this. The monsters are either going to be undertuned for the party, but positioned in an advantageous manner, or the monsters are going to be overtuned for the party, but it's going to be just a stand-up fight or a position where the players could put themselves in advantage. So this first one is the previous. It's weaker monsters that are positioned advantageously. And so what this is it's a very tight hallway. It's a 5-foot wide hallway. So they're already in cramped quarters. Thaldar's probably going to be the first one out. We have one zombie here down in the bottom room. And we have 2 zombies up above. These zombies are on the GM layer, so the players can't see those zombies. Those tokens are hidden. And then the idea is that they're just going to be described as corpses on the floor. Now, of course, any player worth their salt is going to know that they're probably going to animate at some point, especially once they realize that this is like a Dark Souls style campaign. So that's 3 zombies, but then I also have 2 specters here. And the way I have the encounter laid out, if we look at the opening hall document that I have here, Undead Encounter, they're going to get 184 experience for this encounter. These players decided that they still want to do experience rewards for leveling. They don't want milestone leveling, which is what I normally try to do. But these players really like totaling experience. They like that extra layer of bookkeeping, I guess. So we're gonna go through with that. So they step out here, and they're gonna see a bunch of doors. door, 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 door. So 7 doors total. If they walk up this way, they'll be able to step over the bodies totally fine, be able to check the doors, find out that these 2, the one leading to the stairs where it says 5th zone right here, that one's locked, and the one leading out to Della Smoke Surge is also locked. So they're like, okay, can't go that way. They might check these rooms, that's fine. The encounter doesn't start until a player enters this square right here. And once a player, let's say Thaldar, enters there, and let's put these other guys out like this. They're probably not going to be that close, but we'll just put them like that for now. Once a character enters that square, this zombie steps out. Encounter begins. And that's their indication that the fight begins, is that you see this corpse shamble its way out of this open room. It enters the hallway. It turns to look at you with its empty eyes and its gaping mouth. Roll initiative. So we roll initiative, and I'm going to roll for the zombies as well as the specters, but I'm going to keep the specters. I should actually put the specters on the GM layer so that when I roll their initiative, they don't populate in the turn order for the players. I'll be able to see where they go. The players won't. So everybody will roll initiative. That zombie's going to move up and attack, and then these 2. Actually, the specters are the next to activate, and because they're specters, they don't have to go through they don't have to open the door and come through. They can attack these players through the walls, and so they're gonna all converge on whoever's in front here. And this is going to be tough because now they suddenly have more than one target, but they can only attack one target, and it's a pretty weak target. Specters aren't terrible for against a level 3 party, especially only 2 specters, because let's look at what the specter does. I'm not changing any of these monsters, by the way. These are all going to be straight out of the book. I'm not making any adjustments to these guys. But a specter, it's only a CR1, but again, CR is at best a guideline. It is not a hard and fast rule, and you should not treat it as such. The reason why these guys are going to be tough is that they have damage resistance to non-magical weapons, which all of these characters are going to be using non-magical weapons at this point. They have a low armor class. They have decent hit points, a little lower than our player that we looked at. But the kicker is this life drain ability. So when they hit, they deal 3d6 damage. That's not insignificant. We can even just roll a 3d6 here, just to see what it looks like. There's the dice. 13. 13 damage. And then the target must succeed on a DC 10 con saving throw, or its hit point maximum is reduced by an amount equal to the damage taken. That's rough, because you take the damage and then it's permanent until you take a long rest. And that's going to happen every time these things attack. So now that I'm looking at that, I'm actually wondering if 2 specters is too much. I think it might be too much. I think we should eliminate one of these specters. We're going to get rid of that one. So there's now 1 specter. Conversely, I could use something like shadows, because I think they have the same... They don't have incorporeal movement. Incorporeal movement. They are weaker. They have the same AC, but they have 8 less hit points. I'm sorry, 6 less hit points. 6 fewer hit points. But they reduce strength by 1d4, and there's no saving throw. So they do lower damage output, but they straight up roll a d4, reduce your strength. There's no way to save against it. That's rough. So yeah, shadows aren't going to fit. And a ghost. Ghosts are much more... they're much more focused on like RP, like interesting interactions, because they have possession, horrifying visage, etherealness, and they're also a lot stronger. 45 hit points, only 11. So I think specters are the way to go, and I think I'm just going to use the 1. Because they're going to have those zombies in the back, and that's the thing, like, at the start of the zombie's second turn, so the second round of combat is when these guys will animate. And they will get an attack with advantage because the player wasn't expecting it, assuming they weren't expecting it. If the player is telling me what they're doing and like they're keeping an eye on the zombies behind them, that sort of thing, then I won't do with advantage. But if everybody's solely focused on this zombie and then trying to figure out how to get at this specter, then these guys will have advantage on the first one at least will have advantage on its attack. Zombies aren't anything to worry about. These are easy enemies. The only thing that could be a problem is their undead fortitude, which means there's a small chance that they will get back up after you kill them, but it's very small. Since I eliminated 1 specter, I have to redo my experience calculation, because the specter is worth 200, and then we have 150 from zombies. That gives us 350 divided by 3, 100, and we'll round it up, 117 experience. So this is a pretty basic encounter. My goal for this encounter is to teach the players that I'm not going to go easy on them when it comes to positioning. I am going to pull some tricks, and that trick particularly being the specter attacking them through the wall, forcing them to come to it. That's ultimately what this encounter is trying to do. It's the very first encounter they're going to have in the campaign, so I want it to be a little bit of a tone setter. And that tone setter is that the tone that I'm setting is that this world isn't playing fair, and you are going to have to also not play fair in order to succeed. Very Dark Souls. I just started Dark Souls 2 the other day. I still love that game. I know a lot of people didn't like Dark Souls 2, which is a shame. I really do enjoy it. And like I said, I'm pulling a lot of inspiration from Dark Souls for this. So after that encounter here, again, it's designed to be beatable by these characters. I don't want to really challenge them on a mechanical level for this encounter. I want to challenge them on like problem solving and thinking. And the second encounter is going to do kind of the same thing. It's going to have a harsher lesson to it. So after this encounter, they have an encounter here with the only person that they can talk to. It's this blind hag named Della Smokesurge. She is going to offer to read their fortunes through use of... Where is it? There it is. Nope, not playing cards. That's not what I wanted. Through use of a tarot deck, or the Tarokka deck. From Curse of Strahd. Anybody who's played Curse of Strahd knows the Tarokka deck. So for each PC, she'll draw 3 cards. And so here we have the Conjurer, the Tax Collector, and the Bishop. And then I have the Tarokka document here from Curse of Strahd, so that I can reference that. and be able to see, like, okay, Bishop, he's the 8 of glyphs. So we go down to glyphs, find the 8. Bishop, strict adherence to a code or a belief, those who plot, plan, and scheme. Okay, so I can read these cards, interpret it, and then come up with something. And here's the cool thing is that this sort of thing you automatically assume is long-reaching, right? When you see, when you get like those sort of fantasy stories where fortune telling is an element of the story, you assume those are going to be like long-reaching things that are going to come up over the course of the entire story, not just maybe like in the immediate future. So this is something that I can do with the players. It's just like a fun little aside where I'm like, all right, let's read your fortunes. Let's see what you get. Oh, you got the king, or oh, wow, you got the bandit. Oh, that's not good, or whatever. Have this fun little RP moment for them, which is important because there's going to be few RP moments in this campaign as a whole, at least between player and NPC. And so they get a chance to interact with this NPC. They get those RP moments, and then that's like I can record what they each get as far as their cards, and then that's just fuel for later in the campaign that I can go back and be like, all right, well, for this encounter, what did Nalimar have for as one of his cards? Oh, he got the bishop. All right, well, how can I pull on that bishop card? How can I harken back to that bishop card for this encounter? So it's just a nice little way to future-proof the campaign, essentially. There is a reward. So if they have their fortune told, then they get inspiration, if they agree to have their fortune told. Which I think is pretty cool, because also I think they're going to need inspiration in the upcoming fight. And then they can also ask Della some questions about the castle, about why they're here, what's going on. She has limited information. A lot of the stuff that she tells is accurate, but the players don't know what to make of it quite yet. And then from here, the only way that they can search these rooms and get a couple items, I have some just random, like a D6 random roll, essentially. So, healing potions, a shield, a polished jawbone, which I don't know what that's going to do yet. It might not do anything. It might do something. And then a maul they could find. And that's just, they could find, there's 6 rooms here to look through. They could find 6 mauls. They could find, 6 potions or whatever. No idea what they're going to get. I kind of like that small element of randomness. It keeps me on my toes too, and because it's from a curated list that I created, I know it's not going to be anything that's crazy, but at the same time it also is a nice little interesting, like, it encourages them to be thorough and to search every room. But then they're going to go, this door here is locked as well, so the only way they can go is upstairs to the 4th floor. Oh, and that's another thing, is that if they look through any of these windows, which they can, or there's one down here, they will be able to determine that they're on the 3rd floor of this fortification. So if they go up to the 4th floor, we have an encounter that I'm pretty pleased with. They're going to come up these stairs here. Let's turn dynamic lighting off just so you can see, and let's turn it back on the 3rd floor. They're going to come up these stairs. And there's this little peephole through the ruins here, and then there's the doorway. Or it's not a peephole, it's like a broken down wall. They can go through either way. And once they get to about these 3 squares right here, that's when the Guardian of the Reflection, Sir Tiresias, steps out of this door. He comes out, so he's a skeleton. He's dressed in armor, he's wielding a halberd and a shield. He steps out, he puts his halberd on his back, he closes the door and locks it, and he drops the key into a key pouch, or into a belt pouch, and then he takes his halberd out, and initiative rolls. So the players they can already tell, we have nowhere to go, because also this door here is locked. So the players already know, as soon as this happens, we have nowhere to go except for through this guy. They know that this is a fight. And so, with Sir Tiresias, here's the thing. I am huge on customizing monsters and creating monster abilities and stuff like that. I've talked about that before a lot. But I also am a big fan of using the tools that are already provided to me by D&D Beyond or by D&D 5th edition. And so what that usually means is, like, for Sir Tiresias, I was like, all right, I need an NPC who's an adequate match for a third level party that uses a shield, essentially. And so I think he's a gladiator. Yep, he started as a gladiator. And all I did was I took the base gladiator, so he has all the same stats as the original gladiator. He has 16 AC, 112 hit points. He's a CR5, which that's a little high. I think I might drop those hit points maybe down to like 80. 80 feels pretty good for a group of 3 third level characters. Don't know yet. I kept Brave and I kept Brute from the original Gladiator, so he has advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Excuse me, and he rolls an extra die of damage for each melee attack. That could be a problem. But I reduce his attacks from 3 to 2. Instead of making 3 melee attacks, he only makes 2. And I took out the spear that the Gladiator normally comes with, and I replaced it with a halberd. The reason why I replaced it with a halberd is so I could give him a very specific ability. So Sir Tiresias can make one-handed or two-handed halberd attacks. Those should have a reach of 10 feet, not 5 feet. Let's change that real quick, because they are not spears anymore. So he has extended reach, and he deals a not insignificant amount of damage. And actually, let's look at this. We're going to go, 2 GM, so the players, if they come in, they won't see this roll. But let's just roll, because he's using a shield, so let's use it one-handed. Oh, there's a crit miss. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, there's a 25. So he's adding 6 to his attack. He rolled a 19. That's significant. And then damage output, 8. Well, that's not too bad. Let's try it again. 14. That's a lot. That's over half of Nalimar's HP, who is a frontline character. There's another 14. There's another 12. There's another 12. Okay, and this is usually what I do is I roll damage a few times, get an idea for what I'm seeing most of as far as numbers. And basically, to see anything other than double digits would be surprising for Sir Tiresias. So now I might have to tune his damage down a little bit. I could reduce his strength, drop it to a +3 instead of a +4, or I could drop the dice. I could take Brute out, which I think is what I'll do, because he's making 2 attacks. Because I don't want him to be the primary. Yeah, let's take Brute out of there. I don't want him to be the primary. Like, he's the boss. He's the mini boss that they're facing. But there's another trick, and you can see it on the screen right now, actually, that this will also be teaching players about positioning and being aware of their environment. So he can make 2 melee attacks. He can do a halberd swing and a shield bash, and the way he's going to work is that he's going to use that shield bash. He's going to try and knock characters prone. So if Nalimar comes up, he'll be able to tell that Nalimar is a weak, like, doesn't have a high strength. So he will hit with the shield on Nalimar. Let's see if he hits. 16's a miss. But he would do the shield bash against Nalimar, try and force that character to be knocked down using the strength saving throw of DC 13. And then once he's knocked down, then he gets advantage on attacks. So then swing with advantage. And that is considerably harder with the halberd. Advantage, look at that. A 7 or a 23. That's big. So that's what he's going to try and do during his turn. He is, like I mentioned, he is the Guardian of the Reflection, and that's going to come up for the puzzle room that comes after this one, very mirror themed. So I wanted to seed that mirror element, that mirror theme early. So he's wearing a reflective helm. His helm it's shining like a mirror, like you can see warped reflections in it. And I didn't want it to do anything too crazy, but I wanted it to be something that, if certain conditions are met, then this will come up. So if he gets hit with a critical spell attack, he can spend his reaction, and his helm will change it to a normal attack instead of a critical. So it's nothing big. It's a little bit of survivability, but we have 2 characters that are casting spells, but only one of them is casting, like, attack spells. That's our sorcerer. The Hexblade is going to be doing defensive spells and, like, hex and stuff like that. They're not going to be actually dealing damage. So I don't expect Reflective Helm to come up, but I need to make sure that I describe the helm so that it becomes, that they can draw their conclusions in the next room. And with any boss encounter, I think they always need to be doing something when it's not their turn. And this guy's just a mini boss, so I didn't want to go too crazy, but I did want to give him a legendary action. So he has one legendary action, and this is Halberd Sweep. And this is what I'm excited for, because basically, to use Halberd Sweep, at the end of one player's turn, Sir Tiresias, I basically choose a direction, northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, and he's going to choose the one that has the most player characters in it. And he makes a sweep with his halberd, like that, at all of those characters. Any character that is in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Sweeps his halberd. It's, what's the attack? It's a saving throw. They need to make a DC 13 Dex saving throw. They take 3d6 plus 4 slashing damage. That's a lot. We're going to drop it down to 2. 2d6 plus 4 slashing damage. 2d8 if he's wielding the halberd two-handed. So it's 1 die higher than his basic attacks, which is a lot. At this level, at least, it's a lot. So he swings, hits for 2d6 plus 4. They take half damage if they succeed the save, but if they succeed by 5 or more, so if they roll an 18 or higher on their dex save, they don't take any damage. They dodge the attack completely. Which is, I think that's a nice way to play with, to make it seem more like they have a bit more agency, and it's not just, like half damage is nice, but it still sucks. So that succeeding by 5+, I really like that gradient of success that comes with that. So then if I choose a different quadrant, a different direction, then we would just move this like that. But that's how his ability works. But there's, like I said, there's another element to this encounter that they will get rolled into the initiative, and the players will be able to see them. Players can see through these windows, so they'll see these hellhounds over here. They may not know they're hellhounds. They may not even think that they're part of the encounter. They may just see them. But if a player is standing in front of one of these 3 windows, hellhounds are going to move over, and they're going to do their breath attack through the window like that. And hellhound breath attacks are rough. And that's why I said I didn't want Sir Tiresias to be too damaging, because if they get caught in a hellhound breath attack, that's a DC 12 Dex saving throw with 6d6 fire damage. That's going to down a player, more than likely. Like, let's just see. Is that 21, 66? Let's just roll 66 and see what we get. Throw the dice. 19. So a little lower than average there. Whoops. But the good news is that the Hellhound's breath attack is on recharge, so once the Hellhound uses it, it's going to move away. And the players could attack through here if they wanted, but all they have to do is kill Sir Tiresias, and then the encounter's over. So I have up to 2 breath attacks to make, and then that's it. Once Sir Tiresias dies, he drops the key for the next room. And what did I call that? Oh, I didn't award it. So they get 720 experience for defeating Sir Tiresias. That's from the Gladiator as well as from the Hellhounds. I think I included like a third of the Hellhound experience in here because it's not a direct encounter. They just get their breath attack, which is still significant. So I give the players experience for that. And hopefully each of the players will have inspiration that they got from Della Smoke Surge downstairs. So what does this encounter teach? Well, it reinforces that idea that I taught with the first encounter. This is the reinforcement of that positioning is important. It's important because of Sir Tiresias' ability to hit multiple targets between turns, and it's important because of the Hellhounds, but also, this also teaches the players to be aware of their surroundings, and if they see something, like the Hellhounds, to position themselves accordingly so that they don't have to worry about that. Because if they're down here, if they're, like, further south than that window, the Hellhounds won't do anything. It's just these first 3 rows of spaces that will cause trouble. And I think that's probably only going to be an issue for the Sorcerer, because he's probably going to be the only one that's further back, but I think there's the chance that it could be any of them. So that's a significant encounter. That's their first mini boss encounter, essentially. And then we have a puzzle in here and then that they get from using his key. And then they have a treasure room down here, and the Hellhound and Fireball Trap here. So there's a fireball that moves down this hallway. It's traveling at 4 feet up in the air, and it goes pretty fast up and down the hallway. It goes to the other side, sits for 6 seconds, and then it comes back the other side, sits for 6 seconds. So they have, in one round, it's going to cover this whole distance, and then they have one round of action before it moves again. But then in the next round, it's going to make it all the way back, that sort of thing. So they have to avoid that. I think that Fireball Trap, how much damage does it do? It's DC 13 Dex saving throw. So I have all the DCs around 13 until they get to like 5th or 6th level. Then I'll start upping the DCs. But 13 is a good place to be. If I use like the Gladiator, his original DC on Shield Bash was like 15, so I dropped it down to 13. But if a monster has a save DC that's lower than 13, I will not raise it to 13. I will only lower the DCs of more stronger enemies. But they take 46 fire damage, half as much on a successful saving throw. If they succeed by 5 or more, they take no fire damage. So there's that again. But the reason why the fireball is traveling at 4 feet up in the air, like about chest height, is so that the Hellhounds can engage the players in the hallway without being damaged by the fireball. And I know that I think Hellhounds have fire resistance, but we can avoid that completely. Oh, they don't. Oh, damage immune. They're immune to fire. So it was okay. So I didn't even know that. Like it's a fun little thing. Like the fireball travels above them, but they're immune to the damage anyway. So, whatever. Maybe they won't be immune for this encounter. I don't know. So yeah, and then like I said, there's a puzzle room that they need Sir-Tiresias' helm to complete. There is a treasure room down there, the encounter with the Hellhounds, and then this door is locked, so they cannot progress to the next area that way. They can unlock this door, and now have free access back down to Della Smoke Surge. And then they can go down these stairs as well, and that is progress, quote unquote. And now from this point on, the map it doesn't open totally wide to them, but it widens out a lot. They have a lot of different places they can go to. So I'll talk about one more encounter, the next encounter, the one that I talked about yesterday during my last stream. Turn off dynamic laying again, and we'll turn it back on. We'll leave it off for now. So they come down these steps here, and all the exit doors from this area are locked, so they can't go north out of here. They can't go this direction out onto the roof. They can't go out onto the balcony. This room as well right here is locked. And this door that goes back to where they were, they can unlock from this side. So then they kind of open that up. And this one is unlocked, so they can get out to the roof here from this encounter. But anyway, they come down these stairs. And as soon as they come down here, we have 4 skeletons. They're just standard skeletons. Didn't do any changes to these guys. They're regular skeletons with short bows and short swords. Guess what? Of course they have short bows because they're standing across a balcony. So once the players come down here, we roll initiative again. And these skeletons all will be firing their bows at them from across this little 10-foot gap. Sir Gwyn, thanks for joining. Sire Gwyn? I'm going to say Sire Gwyn because I've been talking about Dark Souls a lot. That reminds me of Dark Souls. Which campaign is this for? I haven't played D&D before, and my first game is Sunday. This is a homebrew campaign, so you don't have to worry about this spoiling anything for your upcoming campaign, I hope. Of course, if your DM is using some of these monsters, then you might learn some of the basic stats about them, but me as a DM, I don't think it's a problem if my players know some of the basic stats. Also, I monkey with my monsters a lot. I tool them around and change their abilities a lot. So some of the stuff you see here probably wouldn't even be relevant unless you were playing with me. So they come down here, and this is the third encounter that's all about. It's teaching them about now the enemies. So we talked about positioning in the first encounter. We talked about positioning with situational awareness in the second encounter. And then this one is going to teach them about how the enemies are going to exploit. The enemies are going to try to preserve themselves. They're not all, because in the other 2 encounters, the enemies all engaged. They moved up. They attacked the players' melee range. Like, they put themselves in harm's way to get at the players. This one's going to be the opposite. We have 4 skeletons with short bows. The skeletons are going to be firing their short bows at the players from across this little gap here. And that, so the players are forced to either engage in range or to cross through here. Problem is that we have Sir Percival. Sir Percival is, I forget what NPC I used for him. He's a veteran. So he's not as strong as Sir Tiresias. He's not as strong as a gladiator. He can make 3 melee attacks, so if they engage in melee range with him, he's going to be a problem, because he can swing with his longsword twice, and if he has his short sword out, he can make 1 attack with his short sword. The veteran has a heavy crossbow, but I'm not using the heavy crossbow for this encounter. Instead, he has his longsword out, but he also has access to Alchemist's Fire, as you can see. So, he's going to basically, Percival's going to stay where he is and see what the players do. If the players just try to engage the skeletons from range, then Percival is going to support the skeletons in range by taking out his Alchemist's Fire flask and throwing that. The damage from Alchemist's Fire is pretty minimal. I think it's 1d4, maybe it's 1d4 plus 1. 1d4. There's a saving throw, they take 1d4 fire damage, but it does damage over time. So if they get hit with the Alchemist's Fire, they're going to continue to burn until they spend an action to put the fire out. So it's going to be annoying, and they're going to be like, well, that sucks, we need to engage him. And then if they move in, that's when he takes his short sword out, and now he's going longsword attack, short sword attack, while those skeletons are still firing their arrows. I put 4 skeletons because skeletons are really weak. They have 13 AC, but then they only have 13 hit points, and they have nothing like what the zombies have that allows them to get back up after they die. Short bows are dealing 1d6 plus 2 damage. 3 skeletons seems like a lot now that I'm looking at this. I think I might drop it down. I'm sorry, 4 skeletons seems like a lot. I might drop it down to 3. But I want to put these players in this position where they're like, if we stand here and engage from range, he's going to keep pelting us with fire. If we move in and engage in melee, he's going to be hitting us 3 times. Like, it seems like it's going to be a tough encounter, and I really want to push these players to think outside the box or to come up with interesting ways to defeat these enemies, or just to, as these players usually do, just to brute force their way through it. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it even more, I am going to remove one of our skeletons. So we're going to have 3 skeletons. Percival's hit points are 58. We're going to drop those down a little bit. I talked about dropping Tiresias's hit points. I think I'm going to do that. So we're going to drop Percival down to 40 hit points. Probably going to have to go upstairs and make sure my kids are okay. Sounds like my son's playing Minecraft right now, so he might be getting upset at something. Tiresias has 112. We're going to drop him down to 80 hit points. I think that's a better range, especially if we have those hellhounds in that previous encounter. Okay, so now, and I have to update the tokens, of course. So now we have 3 skeletons and Sir Percival, and here's the thing: I should move these skeletons like this. They're going to be over here. Once they get past Percival, then then they have access to getting at these skeletons. But there's another knight down, not knight, this guy's another veteran, Sir Derek. I'm going to drop his hit points down as well. Oops. Sir Derek has spears, and he's at the end of this long hallway. So as soon as he sees a player character, he's going to start chucking spears down the hallway. And so now they're like, okay, like they have limited space to work with here, and they're going to have to kind of work through this. And again, since I'm going with Dark Souls as a theme, anybody who's played Dark Souls can think of encounters similar to this, where that's part of the fun, or not part of the fun, part of the challenge is figuring out exactly how you can position yourself to make use of your environment and to avoid direct confrontation when it's not necessary. And so that's that encounter. And what do I have the experience set? Because now that I removed a skeleton, that's going to adjust. Sir Percival, Sir Derek, they get 530. Skeletons aren't worth much. They're worth like, what, 25, 50? Let's take a look. 50. So 530 times 3, that's 1590. Minus 50 is 1540. So 1540 divided by 3. It's going to be like, so we're going to go from 530 to like 512. Okay, there we go. So the players aren't going to be at a 4th level yet. They're still going to be 3rd level at this point. But here's another thing, too, is that I'm not punishing them for resting, at least not yet in the campaign. So after the fight with the specters and the zombies, they could take a rest. After the fight with Sir Percival, or Sir Tiresias, they could take a rest. And then after this fight, which this one's going to be challenging as well, they could take another rest. There's nothing that's preventing them from doing so yet. I'm going to introduce something later, I think, that will do so. I really love the idea of, and since they want this to be a little bit more on the scarier, tense, suspenseful side, one of my favorite games of all time is Resident Evil 2. And the remake of Resident Evil 2 was, I thought, phenomenal. It was perfect. So I'm going to take an idea from that, which is Mr. X, and I'm going to implant that in here. Not Mr. X himself. I'm not going to have a guy in a trench coat and fedora marching through the castle. But eventually, when they open up a certain door, or when they access a certain room, that is going to free this super powerful, hard to kill, potentially even impossible to kill until I allow it, enemy that just stalks them through the castle. And so then their rests could be interrupted. But for now, I'm going to wait till probably like level 5 before I do that. So for now, they're going to be okay. When they kill Sir Derek... Where is my... There it is. So they can explore all these rooms in this big area as well. They can get healing potions, daggers, another polished jawbone. Again, don't know what it does yet. Could be something cool. And then Sir Derek will drop the Eastern Rampart key. So now they have a key, but it's not for the door that... It's not for any of the doors that are locked on this floor. And it's not for... They're back on the 3rd floor, by the way. And it's not for this door, because this one's unlocked. And this is as far as I've gotten as far as designing the encounters. So I have some more to do. Other than, like I said, there's a Behir down below. And while they're fighting the skeletons, they will be able to see the Behir down below. So they will know that that's a future problem. And maybe we shouldn't go down there quite yet, because that thing looks terrifying. Put that back on the GM level. So Sir Derek drops a key. They can go out this door. This door is unlocked, and that will take them out onto the the 2nd floor western roof, which allows them access to this little area, as well as back up to the 4th floor with those stairs, and then out into here, which is going back into the fireball trap room. I really love, and I think a lot of people do, love that element of Dark Souls, that exploration feeling where you open a door and you're like, oh my god, like this is a shortcut now. Now I'm back to where I started, or now I'm back to this previous area. And I'm really going for that with this. The layout of these maps is so perfect for structuring a campaign or an adventure like this. It's basically going to just be a mega dungeon crawl, essentially, is all it's going to be. There's this room down here that's a separate encounter because they have to jump through this doorway and over this hole to get into it. They can also, conversely, drop down that hole to go to the 2nd floor. And let's once again turn off dynamic lighting so that we can properly see this. And this is where the Eastern Rampart key comes in. So they could, when they drop down that hole, they come right here. And they could try and get across this little gap and open this door, but then they're in the Behir room, which that'll probably be like the actual first boss, or one of the first bosses, like Big Boss. But actually, if they go this way, there will be a puzzle interaction in this area. The hag refers to the area, she's directly above this. She is like right here on the floor above. She says above is the Guardian of the Reflection, who is Sir Tiresias, and below is the Den of Shadows. I don't know what that means yet. I just came up with an interesting sounding name, and I will come up with a puzzle involving probably light and shadow and these multiple rooms at some point. But that key that they got from Sir Derek unlocks this door right here onto the Eastern Ramparts. Let's hide the Tarokka deck. And so once they get out here, they have access to a lot of different, like they can come in behind the Behir, they can go down this way, along the castle wall, They could even try and jump down from the ramparts down to the courtyard, which would be, that would inflict some, that's like a 25, that's like a 30-foot drop, so they would take significant fall. Wait, what floor are we on? Second floor. That'd be a 20-foot drop. No, I like high ceilings, especially on that first floor. So we'll say it's a 40-foot drop. That'd be 4d6 falling damage if they did that. And that wouldn't be great for them. So yeah. So I have a puzzle there. I haven't decided what's going to be in the Overlook room, which is right here. I think I want it to be another RP encounter, because the last time they had one was with Della Smoke Surge. I think I want to include another one here. I just haven't decided what the character is going to be like, what they're... I like the idea from, like, Dark Souls, for instance, surprising no one, of, like, a knight who is... he's just totally crestfallen. He has no direction, no ambition anymore. He sees the player's efforts as fruitless, that, there's just nothing, there's no point in trying anymore. And so they visit him and they talk to him for a little bit, and then they can come back here after they've accomplished more, and he sees that they've accomplished more, and suddenly he feels, oh no, like, it's not that this quest is pointless, it's that I gave up. That's the problem. And so then he tries to go and resume his quest. And if you played Dark Souls, then you know that that doesn't work well. Or it doesn't work out well for him. We gotta change this token. Just some ideas. That's totally ripped from the Crestfallen Warrior in the original Dark Souls. I may not do that. But I like the idea of this being another, like, RP room, a calm encounter, like something that's not going to be threatening the players crazy, because we just did 3 or 4 encounters that were potentially pretty threatening. But yeah, the idea is that this is going to feel very Metroid-like, very Dark Souls-like, where they have access to this castle, but they're slowly opening up more and more avenues to them as they go. And like I said, the primary goal for the encounters of this campaign, at least the first few, is to teach positioning, to teach situational awareness, and to teach, and then to reinforce positioning and how important that is, not just, like, to avoid damage, but also to leverage it. Because, like, they could push the skeletons off that balcony, and that would probably be enough damage to kill the skeletons. They only have 13 hit points, and that would be like a 20-foot drop, because that first floor has high ceilings. So, and like I said, we have a puzzle as well. Oh yeah, that fireball has light, which I think is really cool. We have a puzzle that I actually really like. Puzzles are tough. I'll talk about this one really quick before we finish. This puzzle is the mirror reflection. So this blue line along the wall here is a big mirror that goes floor to ceiling and almost the whole length of the wall. And these are objects in the room. There's a chest, a table, and two barrels. But in the mirror, this is what they see. They see the chest is under the mirror, and of course it's reversed. Like, I flopped the image for the reflection. So the chest is under the mirror, the table is up on the landing, and then the 2 barrels are positioned in the corner. And then there's 2 rugs. There's 2 fur rugs there. And so the puzzle is that they have to, and you probably guessed this, position the objects in the room so that they match the reflection. And since it's a reflection, they have to do, everything's opposite. But then they get done positioning everything, and they're like, well, wait a minute, there's 2 rugs in there. There's no rugs here. And that's when they have to go and take Sir Tiresias' helmet. And whoever puts on Sir Tiresias' helmet can then travel into the reflection. And when they're in the reflection, they can pick up one of the rugs, take it back out here, and then I have it hidden. So once they take it, I'll put it onto the map, and they can place it. And once that places, then this door right here unlocks, allowing them access into the hallway with the fireball trap and the hellhounds. And then for the treasure chest, I made a random treasure table in Roll20 here. Right there, uncommon treasure. So it's nothing great, but it's their first treasure. And so I get the 3 rolls on the uncommon treasure table. So I would click this I made a macro, it's just off the screen, but it's down here. I would click this 3 times. Oh no, I wouldn't even click it 3 times because it does 3 rolls per click. So we would get this first one. They would get a Wand of the War Mage. They would get an Ever-Smoking Bottle and a Sentinel Shield. Here they would get the Lightbringer, which I think is a mace, Potion of Fire Breath, and 1 Potion of Healing. And actually, oh no, that should be 2 potions of healing. Anyway, and then or like a shield plus 1, so it'd be random. So I'd click it once, and they would get whatever I get. And if I don't like the things, like if I click it and I don't, because they don't see this. It's in chat, but it's whispered to me. So if they don't see that, I can be like, here we go. Adamantine breastplate, Lightbringer, Mithril breastplate. There we go. Perfect. So yeah, that's my first few encounters. That's kind of my philosophy for encounter design. It's I want to challenge players. I want to get them to think about the game more than just which ability can I use. I want them to think about their position on the map, and I want them to think about the environment that they're in. And so that's the goal for those 3 encounters. I might change things a little bit more. Sounds like things are ramping up upstairs, so I probably should head up. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much. Please follow. Yeah, like I said, and I don't know when I'll do the next campaign prep stream. Probably not tomorrow morning. I guess we will see. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.